topic is shortest job first or shortest job next. So what is the funda behind this CPU scheduling? So SJF is out of all available processes or out of all available processes which are in waiting state, it selects the minimum burst time to execute next. So SJF is what? It selects the processes having smallest burst time who are in waiting state. So two versions of SJF algorithm are there. So one is preemptive, another is non-preemptive. Okay. So what is non-preemption? So we cannot forcefully remove the process who are in CPU, who are executing in CPU till its termination. That is called non-preemptive. So what is preemptive? We can, the operating system, forcefully remove that process from the CPU on the basis of the time quantum or any priority cases. So that is called preemptive. Okay. Today we are discussing the non-preemption version of this SJF algorithm. In the next video, we are discussing about the preemptive version of algorithm of SJF algorithm, and after that I will also tell the advantage and disadvantage of this preemptive and non-preemptive version of SJF algorithm. So FCFS means, FCFS is the non-preemptive version of algorithm, but the SJF is of two types, that is preemptive and non-preemptive. On the next video, I will discuss the advantage and disadvantage of this two version of algorithm after the discussion of preemptive version. Okay. So today I am going to discuss with you the non-preemptive SJF algorithm. So basically this preemptive version of algorithm is called SRTF or shortest remaining time first or shortest remaining time next. Okay. And if in exam they specify you have given a question, if they specify you that solve the problem using the SRTF method, solve the algorithm using SJF, simply SJF, then by default you have to solve that question by applying non-preemptive version. Okay. If they specify to solve the problem using SRTF, then at that moment you have to solve the problem applying preemptive version of this SJF algorithm. Okay. If they don't specify anything that is preemptive or non-preemptive, then you have to apply just by default, you have to apply just non-preemptive version of this SJF algorithm. Okay, take care of that. So we are going to discuss the non-preemptive version. If there are more than one process reached at the ready state who are in waiting state having same burst time, then what will you do? So in that case, if there are more than one process, two or more process having same burst time have reached at the ready state, then at that moment we have to apply FCFS scheduling. Okay, the order of writing the processes. Okay, so here is the example I have given. With this example, we have to solve the SJF with non-preemptive version. So we are discussing the preemptive version. Okay. So first of all, we have to draw the Gantt chart. See, if you draw this Gantt chart properly or correctly, then 90% of your work has been done. Okay. So you have to draw this chart correctly. Okay. Fine. So assumption is what? Assumption is the process has not required any IO operation. We have just the CPU time. We have just the CPU bound process. Process only requires CPU bound. Process doesn't require any IO operation. So what is the time? This time as well as starts from 0. Okay. See, at the time 0, is there any process has come to the ready state out of this available processes? Is there any process that come? Yes, we have P4. The time of the arrival time of the P4 is 0. So P4 is first arrived at the ready state. Okay. So what is the criteria of this SJF scheduling? We have to choose what? We have to pick up the minimum burst time. So obviously you will see the minimum burst time of this processes. Okay. It doesn't mean that you directly jump to this burst time and check out the minimum burst time. There is minimum burst time is what? 1 and 1. So P1 and P3 having minimum burst time. So I have said that the process having minimum burst time, if there are the process reached having same burst time, then we have to apply FCFS scheduling. Then we have to pick up P1 having minimum burst time as the FCFS, then you have to write this P1. No, that is not right. Okay. Because at the time 0, there are no process come at the ready state yet. Okay. At the time 0, there are no process reached yet at the ready state. Okay. So there are only one process, that is P4. See, out of all available process, we have only one process at the ready state. Okay. So we have to allocate P4 to the CPU. CPU has been allocated to the P4 at any cost. Okay. Whether the burst time of the P4 is high among all of the available burst time, whether the P4 having the highest burst time, we have to allocate the P4 at first. For how many time? For 6 millisecond it will be allocated to the CPU. Okay. So CPU it is executing in the CPU. The CPU bound process is 6 millisecond. So we are discussing what? We are discussing non-preemption version of SJF. So in this execution time to 0 to 6 millisecond, we do not remove P4 forcefully and allocate other process to that CPU. So in this execution, operating system cannot remove this process forcefully. Okay. So 6 millisecond, during 6 millisecond it will be executed and it will be terminated. Okay. So P4 has done. Okay. So there are at 6, look, at 6 millisecond, is there any process has reached at the ready state? Yes. We have P1, P2 at P1 has reached at 2 millisecond, P2 has reached at 1 millisecond, 2, 1, 4, 2. So in ready state, we have P1, P2, P3 and P5. Here P4 has terminated. Okay. So now in this scenario, then you have to apply the criteria of SJF, shortest job first. You have to apply this algorithm to this, because out of all available process who are in waiting state, it selects the process having minimum burst time, and now we have all available processes in the ready state at the 6 millisecond. Okay. Now we have to check which is having minimum burst time. So there is P1, P2, P3, P5. So check out the minimum burst time. The minimum burst time is 1. At P1 there is P1 and P3. P1 have reached at 2 millisecond, P3 has reached at 4 millisecond. So 2 is less than 4. So two processes having same burst time, then we have to apply what? FCFS. Okay. So we have to allocate the P1 to the CPU. So P1 would be allocated to the CPU for how much time? For 1 millisecond. So after that, which process P1 has been done? Then we have P2, P3, P5. Then after that, which process would be allocated to the CPU? That is P3. Okay. After P2, there is another process which is having minimum burst time is 1, that is P3. For how much time? It also for 1 millisecond, 7 to 8 millisecond. Then P3 has done. Okay. So next, in the ready state, how many processes are there? P2 and P5. P2 and P5, look at the burst time. So 3 is less than 5. So we have to allocate P5. So what is the burst time of the P5? That is 11. So P5 has done. So last one is P2. So what is the burst time of P2? That is 5. 16. At 16 millisecond, CPU has terminated all the processes of its execution. It completes its execution for all the processes. Okay. See, is there any processes in the, look at the Gantt chart, is there any time where the CPU is ideal? Look at this, for 0 to 16 millisecond, is there any time when the CPU is ideal? No. 0 to 16 millisecond, at any time CPU was doing any processes, CPU was busy in doing any processes, execution for a process. So in this case, the final execution time, that is 16, is equal to the sum of this burst time. See, 6 plus 3, 9, 10, 15 and 16. In the previous lecture, there is a time when the CPU has ideal for some time. For some time, CPU was ideal in the previous Gantt chart. In that case, CPU is ideal for some time, for 1 millisecond. But in that case, that would be not same. So take care of that. So, but this time, in this time, CPU was busy doing any processes at the time. So the sum of this process, the sum of this execution time, final execution time is same as this sum of burst time. Okay, fine. So let us try to find out turnaround time, average waiting time and response time. So first we have to find out what is the completion time. Completion time means at the time when the process has completed its execution, terminate. So for P1, what is the completion time of the P1? That is 7. For P2, what is the completion time? That is 16. Don't look at this left side. Don't look at this 11. Okay, this is the time when the process has put in the CPU. This is the time when the process has allocated to the CPU at first time. Okay, don't look at this. Look at this time when the process has terminated. Okay. For P3, what is the completion time? That is 8. For P4, what is the completion time? That is 6. For P5, the completion time is 11. So what is the turnaround time? So turnaround time means completion time minus arrival time. For P1, what is the turnaround time? 7 minus 2, that is 5. 16 minus 1, that is 15. 8 minus 4, 4. 6 minus 0, that is 6. 11 minus 2, that is 9. That is the turnaround time. Or on the other word, we can say turnaround time equal to waiting time plus burst time. Okay, during the execution, from the arrival of a process in the ready state and before the completion of a process in the time interval, somewhere it is executing and somewhere it is waiting. Okay, so if you remove the burst time in the, from that time interval, then waiting time would be calculated. So what is the waiting time? That is turnaround time minus burst time. So calculate waiting time. So what is the waiting time? Turnaround time minus burst time. 5 minus 1, that is 4. 15 minus 5, that is 10. 4 minus 1, that is 3. 6 minus 6, that is 0. 9 minus 3, that is 6. Okay. Let's check out the response time. Means at the time when process has allocated the CPU at first time, okay, from the ready state. It will be waiting for some time in the ready state, and after that time CPU would be allocated to that process, okay, and at the time of when the process has arrived at the ready state, at that time maybe CPU has allocated to that process, then the response time is 0. Then what is the response time? See, for P1, what is the first time? At first time, a time when P1 is allocated to the CPU, 6. But the arrival time of the P1, at what time P1 is arrived at the ready state? See, 2. So 6 minus 2, that is 4. For P2, 11. But the arrival time of the P2 is 1, that is 10. For P3, that is 7 minus 4, that is 3. For P4, 0 minus 0, that is 0. For P5, 8 minus 2, that is 6. See, in the previous lecture, I have told you that in non-preemption version, in the non-preemptive cases, the response time and waiting time would be same. Okay, this is for only for non-preemption. So I am discussing the non-preemption version of the SJF. Okay, so here look at this, the waiting time and response time are same, 410306, 410306. Okay, so but in preemptive case it is not like that. Okay, let us find out the average waiting time and average turnaround time. So the average waiting time is 4.6, total of this waiting time divided by the number of process, 5. Okay, total of this turnaround time divided by 5, that is the average turnaround time is 7.8 and the average waiting time is the 4.6. So I hope this was clear to you, and I hope it was you understand the non-preemptive version of this SJF. Okay, there is some advantage and disadvantage of this SJF scheduling. In the next video, I will discuss the SRTF algorithm. Till then, take care, bye bye.